Today, I'm going to show you how you can use a DaVinci Resolve Mini Panel at home to remotely control a Resolve Studio system that's in another facility across town, maybe across the country. I'll use Jump Desktop to see the computer interface and the tools that nobody talks about and that are built right into DaVinci Resolve Studio. Alright, so first things first, make sure before you try anything else, make sure when you go to your preferences, system control panels, that you can actually use your remote panel at home locally first. You're going to be using it over USB for this setup, and just make sure that's good. And then the next thing I want to point you to is under the help section up here, we have documentation, technical. This is actually where this information is at. So if you take a look here, the DaVinci Resolve Remote Panel text, this has all the information that you need, and that's the basis of how you set a lot of this up. There's a section on here that says local.panel.remote address equals your IP address. That's going to be a public IP address over that port 20323. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, let me show you how do you actually port forward and get all this set up between the two systems. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is on the system here at home, we are going to figure out what is our local IP address. Well, our local IP address can be found in system settings of your Mac. And then if you go down over here and click on whatever network port you're using, you want to be using the Ethernet port. Right under where it says IP address, there's your IP address. This is also an important place to check out because it also tells you what your router gateway is. So right there, that address is going to tell me what do I type into my web browser so that I can do a port forwarding rule, which is what I'm going to show you next. So we got a local IP address and we have a router gateway. So I'm going to open up a browser. I'm going to go to whatever your gateway was, and then I can only show this on Unify because that's what I have. But on Unify, this is Ubiquity, by the way. Every router is going to have this as an option, though. You want to go to mine is under Settings, Security for the network, and then we have a port forwarding section, and then this is where you set up and create port forwarding rules. So I don't need to create a new one because I already have one, but the configuration for Resolve Remote Panel is going to be over port 20323. I just put that there so I knew what it was. You don't have to type that exactly. But here's the rest of the settings that I use. So we've got from any, but we're going to forward our local IP address. That's right there. So that's what we got from our system settings. That's the computer that has a Resolve Mini Panel plugged in over USB, forwarding over TCP. So that's the main thing. And then I always have this available so I can turn it on and off as sessions require. So we're going to turn it on by clicking the checkbox, hitting apply changes, and now we will have set up the port forwarding so that is open up to the internet. But this remote panel thing where it tells us IP address, this is not your home local IP address. This needs to be your public IP out in the internet. And the website I use to find what your internet IP address is, which is kind of like a address to your house is the way I would think of it, is this website called portchecker.co. And right here you can see under where it says your IP address, you will have your public IP address, which will be totally different than obviously than your local IP address inside your network. And so what you're going to do is you are going to take this IP address and you're going to copy and paste it into that line of script that we had gotten out of the remote panel thing, this local.panel thing. Now I already save a separate text edit document over here that has my information ready to go. So I can add this to any remote system that I'm going into. So the idea is you take this string, you copy and paste this into the remote system, and they're allowed to communicate. So let's do that next. I'm going to copy and paste that address since I have port forwarding open, and I'm going to use Jump Desktop. So Jump Desktop is basically, it's a way to remotely control other machines, and it's like you're there. So Teradici and Parsec are other two, HP Anywhere, those are some other competitors. Jump Desktop is great because it's like $35 and you put it on the system and you can, it's like you're there basically. Color's not super accurate through it, but we're going to get to that at the end of this tutorial. So now that we're in a Resolve system that's remotely located across Manhattan, away from my home, I'm going to go up to the preferences again, and under the advanced section, I'm just going to paste that line of code in that we had gotten from that help document, and that's pretty much it. We just have to restart it. The other thing, I'm not sure if we need it or not, but my system here at the office also does have a control panel setting here for the Resolve Mini Panel USB. Maybe if you've done this before, you can tell me if that's necessary. But maybe it is, maybe it's not. But it's just basically saying we're going to use that IP address to control the machine. We hit save, and it's going to ask us to restart Resolve. So the next time we restart Resolve, it should connect. I'm going to quit out of Resolve. And then the next thing I'm going to do is back here at home. So this is my home Resolve that's in black. You don't actually need Resolve open for this to work. What you do need is to run the server application. And the server application, remember I talked about going to that technical documentation earlier, is found just one level up. So if you go to the DaVinci Resolve folder, it comes like pre-installed in here when you get Resolve. And it's this DaVinci Resolve Remote Panel app right here. So I'm going to double click this, and it looks like nothing has happened, but actually it has launched Terminal, and it's opened the communication on that port so that it can start talking to the computer that's across town. So one way you can check to make sure everything is set up and working as you would expect is to go to the port checker website and check on that, type in that 20323 port, run it, and then it should say open if everything is configured right at your home location. Some firewalls will block any sort of port forwarding, so just know you may need VPN access for that to work. But now that we have this server running, just leave this window open. We can jump back with Jump Desktop to the remote computer. We're going to relaunch DaVinci Resolve, and it's good to know you want to be on the same version of DaVinci Resolve. So I'm running the 19 beta on both these systems. If you're using a mismatch, some of the features I've found were not working correctly right now. But as soon as I open it up here, I have full control here at my home setup for all of my normal controls. So like, I think this shot looks, maybe it's a little bit too blue or something. I can start to warm it up, and I'm just turning the dials on my home system. Maybe I need to make it darker, make it brighter. Maybe I need to add a circle power window in there. And I have all the controls that I'm used to at home to make adjustments. And the next thing I want to point out is, how do I actually see an accurate color? Because right now I'm looking at this through Jump Desktop. Well, the fastest way that I've seen for this to work well is actually using the built-in tool for DaVinci Resolve Remote Monitoring. You go to Workspace, down to Remote Monitoring, not Remote Grading. And this will depend on what GPU you have, what options you have over here, but this is an M2 Ultra, great computer. So I'll use the H.264 10-bit setting and set it to automatically accept connections. And what I'm going to do at my home system is I'm going to be receiving the stream that I'm sending out from this remote office machine across town. And you will need to sign in with a Blackmagic ID. Those are free. That's simple to set up. I don't need to go over that. I'm going to hit Start Session, and this is starting to stream this out to my home system. All you need to do is copy, click that button to copy this unique streaming code, come back to your home system. Again, it's not even running Resolve, but I do need to run the DaVinci Resolve Remote Monitor app. It comes with Resolve. It's bundled alongside it. It should be in the apps folder there. And you'll sign in with your Blackmagic ID. You'll paste your code here, and you have the options here of output device being an Ultrastudio, which is what I use because it goes to a broadcast display, or any other computer monitor. You hit join, and you can see it's going to let me in soon. And if I go back over to here, it'll say Chadwick Schultz is actually viewing, and it's up on my Flanders display as we speak. It works really, really nicely, and so I can see display using remote monitoring. I can control with the remote server app. And then I will point you to one other useful website for if you need to do live collaboration with clients, which is a big part of what we do, right? We're not into this just for ourselves. We have to make a living, and so we need to have creative feedback and do this as a service. So Louper.io, big fan of, and what Louper.io does is it's another way so you can also send a stream out over Louper.io using another computer and use and basically get like a Zoom type experience where you can just sit in a room all day and everyone can be in different parts of the country working. And it's a really nice experience. So the last piece of this that I wanted to show you is how do you close out the sessions. Just hit end session here. That's going to stop my stream back to my house. You'll see here the session has ended there. And then the next thing is I'm still connected over this server app, right? That's under here, DaVinci Resolve Remote Panel Server. That will close as soon as I close out of Resolve, Command Q to quit out of Resolve, and I come back to here. It says USB session stopped successfully. I'm going to hit Control C also is another way to close stuff when you have a terminal command running. So that's all closed out and good. However, I still have that port open on my computer. So a good security measure is to go back to Resolve Remote Panel, uncheck the rule, apply changes, and that has just locked down my network at home again. The only other piece I will tell you, if you go to work at a facility that with your remote panel and you put your public IP in there, maybe you aren't going to be on that same computer again, but going, but you still want to be able to send this out and someone else will be on that machine. I would suggest as soon as you're done with your session, go back to Resolve and go to the preferences like I'm doing right now and go to advanced and delete this information so that you don't start controlling a system that someone else has opened. Hey, please make sure to share this video if you know someone that uses a Resolve Mini Panel remotely. I think it'll be super helpful. I'm Chadwick, and because there's so much more to learn, I'll see you in the next video.